When a pupil gets to the end of their school career, they will have a meeting with something called a guidance counsellor. And the guidance counsellor's job is to ascertain the best career path for their pupil. So they need to match up their ability and also their passions. And the job of the guidance counsellor is to put them in the best route that will gain the pupil's success, but is also to warn against the bad plans that a pupil may have. But if a pupil went to a guidance counsellor and said, I would like to start a business and I would like to rewax people's jackets, I feel like the guidance counsellor might warn them off the idea. But you seem to have made it work, Ryan.
Seems to have made it work, yeah. There's always that looking over the shoulder to see if it's still working, but here we are 5 years in. But funnily enough, if I'd have listened to my guidance counsellor, which I don't even know if is a thing anymore, I'd have been in the army by now. So the only thing I was good at was football and art. And we didn't have the choice to study football, and I failed miserably at art for some reason. So rewaxing it was.
So talk me through the rewaxing journey. How did it come about, and the sort of background behind it? Because it's one of my favourite things to do is to test what career you're on, and would it make interesting conversation at a dinner party. And I feel like if I was sat beside you, I'd be like, "Oh hi, I'm Joe. You're Ryan. Nice to meet you. What do you do?" It'd be quite a good topic conversation.
Yeah, well, when we call waxing, people then think I'm a beautician. When people mention you do waxing, not that kind of waxing. But I've done many things, many things that have led me to where I am today with this. In this kind of realm, I did briefly work opposite a Nike outlet, and I'd spend my lunch times picking up the trainers at the back of the outlet, which were discounted crazily, and then I'd sell them online. The usual kind of thing, which then become cool and people do that for a living now. I know nothing about trainers. I just saw an absolute bargain to be made. But the rewaxing started by buying an old Barbour game fair, of which I've got one identical behind me, funny enough. Don't know why. Never really been interested in Barbour jackets or anything, but I know the story. I know the heritage of the brand. Picked up an old jacket on eBay that needed reproofing. Realised you could do it at home. My background is in digital services, user-centered design. So a lot of stuff where you get paid for thinking, nothing to do with your hands. I'm useless with my hands when it comes to DIY or anything like that. Had a go at waxing this jacket where I realised you had a start product and an end product using your hands, which, tell my dad's generation, they're like, that's normal. But to me, it's not. We were the first generation of knowledge workers, of people who got paid for thinking, where craft was left behind. So I did that and enjoyed it. And then I kind of thought, how many people know this is a thing? A brand new Barbour jacket or Belstaff is today $4.95 for a trial master. Back then it was a little bit less. A few of my friends used to go to Ellen Road, go and watch football. They wear the casuals in the Belstaffs fastened up and stuff. And I just asked them, and they'd buy a new one every year. And I'm like, did you know you can reproof that? No idea. So started doing those, and when you reproof a jacket, it really does come up as new, and that's the beauty of it. And they need doing every year pretty much if you wear it. So I kind of took that realisation, and in my lunch hour, walk around Leeds city centre like a madman, approaching people wearing Barbour jackets and saying, did you know that can be reproofed? And 9 out of 10 would say, I had no idea. So then that kind of made me think, there's a real business here, or there's something here, a side hobby, whatever. Genuinely, it kind of sounds a little bit Tweed to say it, but the whole fast fashion thing then was really starting to bubble. It's not the monster it is today, but the idea of people throwing things away wasn't as prevalent as it is today. But that was always there, the green element of the industry where we should really be taking care of our stuff a lot more. So I kind of lent into that a lot. From there, I spent my evenings, was a hobby, spent my evenings driving up and down the M1 and M62, which if you're from West Yorkshire, you'll know well. I remember one night spending 6 hours driving around to collect jackets with a handshake and bringing that service back. We in Leeds, not necessarily a fan now, but I'm from Leeds, born and bred. We gave birth to M&S and Asda and all these kind of massive UK brands that are out there now, all starting from Leeds market. and that service. So I wanted to kind of tap into that. So I turn up in my red Mini Clubman, meet these people in these big, beautiful houses in places like Boston Spa, Ilkley, collect the jackets, reproof them, and then deliver them the next week. And then then COVID happened. So I took the service online, and then we've never looked back since, really. It just boomed.
What is it about the wax jacket do you think is so appealing? So the one I wear is a Barbour Beaufort from 1991, which is 8 years older than me. It's older than GPS, it's older than Facebook, it's older than YouTube. And I recently wore it to a 4-star hotel in Amsterdam. But I've also worn it chopping wood in rural Scotland. And it was at home in both of those situations. What is it that you think that just grabs people about it?
We see such a wide demographic of customers. I've mentioned the football casuals who will have a Belstaff in their wardrobe next to a Stone Island shimmer piece. And then you've got, for example, I've had a couple that I get every year from the same customer who's later on in life who lives in a mansion, palatial home down south somewhere, who wears it to work the land. The designs never changed. One of the reasons I've not created my own wax jacket, which is kind of feels like the next natural step, would be there's two shapes to the wax jacket: the Trial Master motorcycle jacket, and then your Beaufort style wax jacket. They can't be improved upon. They're timeless designs that. Why would you change them? And like you've just said, you can wear them for chopping wood to turning up at a 4-star hotel. It just works, and I've no idea why. One thing I'm trying to do at the minute is get my stepdaughter, who's just turned 14, and she's becoming aware of fashion, into a wax jacket. I've had one sat here for the last 2 years. And then you see in the Glastonbury coverage last week with Barbour sharing Alexa Chung and so on, wearing the wax jacket. It just works across the spectrum. To answer your question, why? I'm not sure. It does, when people think of English heritage, which has been through the mill over the last 10, 15 years with Brexit, and all that kind of thing, people do tend to think of, certainly in fashion, a Barbour jacket. It really is just a timeless design. And I guess that's the only thing that comes to mind, really.
It's funny though, like you were saying in Glastonbury, range of people wearing it, because the Queen would wear it regularly, but then also Oasis, they would often wear Barbour jackets when they were going in and out. So it's just so funny, the spectrum of society that it seems to appeal to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the people we get, it's such a. I kind of set out with a brand in mind when I built the business, and I don't know why. I've always been kind of ambitious and a little bit footed in design, and I guess it might be my user-centered design background where I think about users, horrible term, but think about customers, users of a service. And I wanted to kind of, I did a lot of work on who those people are. And with something so niche, you're thinking a rewaxing service, it's crazy. But actually, when you step back and look at the different demographics of customers that wear these things, as I mentioned, Belstaff and Barbour as the main two players. And there are many people, John Partridge, Private White, Burberry, and Mulberry. We get quite a few Mulberry jackets, vintage ones, which are stunning, genuinely stunning. But the demographic of customer that will wear a wax jacket is absolutely massive. And when I look at how I speak to our customers, rather than going down the one alleyway as such, you've got, you kind of got to, I'm not going to say pivot because I hate that word. You've kind of got to speak to them in different languages and look at them. Like I said, the football lad to the chin-stroking hipster to the gentleman who's always lived in a Barbour, the farmers, it is absolutely massive.
Here's a newbie question
Yes.
On the Barbour jacket. Solway zippers. Yes. Everyone goes mad for them. They're old. Are they old? Like, what's so special about the Solway zipper on a Barbour?
So a Solway zipper it looks like a standard Barbour. I'm going to go on record and maybe say I probably see more Barbour jackets than anybody else in the country, maybe even people working at Barbour, because of the amount that come through, and I lose track of the designs and the models and all this kind of thing. But a Solway zipper would look like a standard Barbour, your green Barbour. It's got a chest pocket and it's belted. And one thing that you get asked a lot is, can you do replacement Solway zipper belts? Because people lose them belts no end. But a funny story on it. It's the patent Barbour let the patent expire on that maybe, how many years, 3 or 4 years ago. And I was the one who inadvertently told them by a chance meeting with Helen Barbour of Barbour, as I embarrassingly introduced myself as the wax jacket expert, to which she said, she said, oh, so am I. So I said, oh, what's your name? It's Helen Barbour. Right, okay, let's have a chat. So we had a chat. I did tell her about that. I said the patent expired literally last week on that jacket. Why it's so sought after? Not to discredit modern manufacturing, but the older things do seem to be made a lot better. And the Solway is a stunning jacket. The thickness of it, the quality of it is unbelievable. Is it just because it's rare? I'm not sure. But it is a really nice piece. It does bridge that gap. When I mentioned the two main styles of a wax jacket, your Trial Master, your belted Trial Master, and your standard Beaufort style, it does kind of meet in the middle of those. So maybe that's one of the reasons.
Along with the passion for wax jackets, we also share a common background in cycling. You were part of the team sprint team in the early 2000s, often training with Craig McLean. But then you also took it a step further when you were taking your wax jacket reproofing business. You modelled your current business off Rapha. Was that right? So what key points did you see and want to take inspiration from?
Yeah, so first of all, I was nowhere near Craig McLean. I used to message Craig McLean, having bought a bike off him, and I used to just try and soak as much information as him. But yeah, some of the guys I rode with went on to, well, they are still riding. And Pete Mitchell took the Nationals this year in the sprint after retiring and then coming out of retirement. I was never at that level. These guys are machines and monsters, and I used to just kind of be along for the ride, excuse the pun. The Rapha model. So Rapha's, for people who may not know, Rapha are a cycling brand. 2004 they started, Simon Mottram. And they are, I think that the playing field's leveled a lot more now with people's thoughts towards them, but they came along and shook things right up in the cycling world, because certainly, like, growing up where I did in West Yorkshire, cycling was never cool. I came into cycling later in life, but it was never a cool sport. You know, the kits, which actually now you look at the kits and, oh my word, they are absolutely gorgeous, and the steel frames that people used to ride on, they were never cool in the 90s. And the kids who'd ride bikes and maybe didn't play football weren't the cool kids. So Rapha come along, and Rapha took that feeling from, the romance of cycling, the stories, and for want of a better phrase, made it all black and white and made it monochrome and made it look sexy. So for anybody who never saw cycling through that lens, they saw it through a new lens. And he retold all of those old stories from Paris-Nice and Roubaix, and really romanticised about it, and almost built a brand before the clothing and the product. The clothing that they created obviously was iconic. Took away all of the sponsors, all of the garishness of standard cycling wear, and went black with the mainly black, white armband, really retro, really cool, and they were derided a lot by the purists who were like, this isn't cycling, you are monetizing it. And then he went, he were really clever, because he looked at cycling at that point it was before the boom of 2012. He looked at cycling becoming the new boardroom sport. It took over golf. You're having middle-aged chaps at that point who maybe 20 kilo, it doesn't matter about weight, as long as people are riding bikes. But the point being, they'd spend $5,000 on a new set of wheels rather than losing 10 kilo to get them faster up a hill. But Rapha really looked at that and took that forward. So for me, I bought into it. I loved it. I loved that whole, the clubhouses. Whenever I'd be in London, I'd be perched up in Soho in the Brewer Street clubhouse, just being a part of it with Eurosport playing constantly. Watching, I just loved it, and it built a community. And I really looked at that, and I kind of thought, hang on a minute, I mentioned those different demographics. I can build a community and kind of mirror what they did, and that's essentially what I did. I literally found their business plan, their original business plan, looked at it and thought, how can I take inspiration from this, and linking that back into the cycling world. And it's like with anything, really. I look at the reason we mentioned Craig McLean. He was one of the top sprinters in the world. So I'm thinking, Well, if I want to be, I'm never going to be that, but how can I be so much better? Well, ask the people who've been there and done it. And that's how you learn. You take bits from them, put it into your own training, put it into your own business, and then hopefully you can use that as a springboard to the next step.
So the next step being the fact that you were going around Yorkshire in your Mini, and then COVID came, you went online, and then it's really grown since then, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the main things is, and again, linking back to my user-centered design past, is how do you make things easier for the customer? So when we started having people post them in, they were literally arriving in a Sainsbury's carrier bag that had been taped up. And using that Rapha model, again, we wanted to elevate this. We wanted to create an aspirational brand, an aspirational service. If you're packing up your £500 jacket, it's got to be, the service has got to reflect that product. So I, again, did a lot of research on what those brands are doing, what our customers would expect for something associated with those brands. So I created a really simple service which took things on, just blew things up. You as a customer would come to us, to our website, read our story, read the service we offer, simply put your details in. We post you out a correct size mailing bag with a beautiful form using all local imagery. And it's all labelled up. You simply drop your jacket in there, send it back to us. And just doing that slight little thing, from a completely pure business point of view, I need your jacket here as quick as possible so that my business can grow. So how do I do that? And that really did fuel things. So we're still doing that model. A few people who set up since, who are doing great at what they do, they use that model as well. But to this day, we're doing that and sending these out to literally across the world. Yesterday, they were running from Texas, and that makes me giggle a little bit. But it's certainly working for us.
So you were taking these from the customers, but then it wasn't long until the bigger brands started to take note and reach out to you.
Yeah. Again, social media is a what am I? I'm 41, so I was kind of there from the birth of social media. I've got a love-hate relationship. I'm one of these people who puts things out, knows how to play that game, and then I don't really read it. I don't immerse my own personal self in that. But I really use social media to grow the business, putting things out there. Again, building that community, so a big thing is growing our story in front of our customers. So we've got so many customers now who've been with us from day one, and have seen us grow. Because I'm really open in sharing the stories, the successes, the losses, and all this kind of thing. So then we had a phone call from Belstaff, very early days, before we had a workshop and an office. I was doing it from my loft, which is an attic like that, proper loft, half boarded. And they asked us if we'd take on their 50 jackets from their Regent Street store. Yes, absolutely. Are you in a position to deliver? Yes. Yes. So we took their jackets, hilariously. I was in my attic and it was boiling when we used to have boiling summers, we haven't had them for a while. And I was in my underwear, waxing away these jackets, sweat pouring from me. But yeah, it's something that I learned a lot from that. You can't say yes to too many things, but it was a risk doing that because it's scary. Belstaff are one of the biggest brands in the world, certainly in our world. They are one of the two biggest brands. And for them to know of us very early doors and recognise the work we're doing was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I had to jump for that opportunity. And it was just a massive feather in our cap to say, well, okay, if we're recognised by the people that make the jackets and they're happy for us to take care of them, then the customer should be as well,
So what were the jackets in which they were sending up? Were they customers' jackets?
Yeah, they used to do the service. They don't do it anymore, I don't think. They would drop them in the store and send them to us. But the thing with this service as well, over the last 5 years we've been going, the green element of the fashion industry is going nowhere, and rightly so. Now, if you walk through any high street, of which every high street is identical these days. I was in Liverpool recently, taking my other half and stepdaughter to see Taylor Swift. So me and my little boy went to Liverpool to occupy ourselves. And it's been a while since I've been in Liverpool. And the Liverpool One, I think it's called, it is just another identikit. You could drop yourself in any city centre, your H&M, Lego, Zara. It's really sad to see. But in all of those shop windows, they'll mention green this, green that, sustainable this. And it's just a badge for these people. They don't care. Their ethics are shocking. And we know all this. Everybody knows all this stuff now. And I do see the sea change happening with people who wouldn't normally think about that, changing their habits. But the bigger brands as well, they have to think about that. Everybody has to think about it. So for people like Belstaff and another partner of ours, John Partridge, Peregrine, all doing amazing work, it's really difficult for them to employ what we do into their business. It's a whole new department, really. So for us working with them, it works for everybody because they get the element of, we are truly taking care of the product, working with a different partner who do that for us. And they don't have to have the cost of employing that in. It's that simple. So for us at that point, getting that kind of that wave at the right time was really, really good for us. And obviously COVID happened where, I know that everything's been laboured with COVID and it seems like an age ago, but people did start to look closer to home. People did start to champion the local craft, the local makers, the local greengrocers. And they were taking a big trend for us where people were going outdoors and walking. People weren't able to go to the gym. They weren't able to do anything. So they were walking. And then they were getting their old jackets out and they're going, this needs reproofing. And they sat there on the internet all day. And I put the thing in front of them on the internet. Oh, wow, this is a new thing. So a lot of things came together at the right time for us. And it really helped us get where we are today.
At what point did you think that you can expand the business? Because you're also got your own line of clothing, don't you?
Yeah, so we, again, my design days go back to laying in front of the fire at home back in Leeds, where designing football kits. So designing Leeds United kits, always with Adidas, which we're now thankfully with, which is great, but with a trefoil logo and Opel sponsor like AC Milan and the players, Franco Baresi, Savicevic, Gullit, all those players, which were, that was where design came from. So through this, again, I looked at the heritage of the clothing we were working with and looking at how these brands were moving and where they were going and learning a lot about their customers. They love their old jacket. They're attached to that for so many reasons. The names that we get in the jackets where it's crossed out and then another name's written in, that for me just speaks to my soul. It really does, because it's been worn and it's been loved, and especially from generation to generation. We love that. And we've found now, because, this is fashion's about making money for a lot of people. Well, it is for many people. Barbour don't necessarily need to lean on that heritage anymore. They don't want to lean on that heritage. They do really well with their lifestyle range, the T-shirts, and going under the covers with that stuff. That's where the money's to be made, because it's cheap to make and they sell it high. That's business. Belstaff have kind of moved towards a more mainstream market. The original Belstaffs were made for riding motorcycles. And when we get one side by side, a new one with an old one, it's just a different world. But they know their customer, and that's who they're selling. So I realised there are customers who want that heritage, the true kind of heritage. So I simply created some sweatshirts, again, all part of our story, using a patch. Not going to lie, I looked at what Kent and Kerwin were doing at the time, as a big fan of what they were doing. And I just thought I'll put a little post on Instagram, and the messages came in, can we buy one of these? What? Oh, okay. So I did 10, flew out within the first week. I thought, right, okay, there's a need here. And again, that pins it back to building a brand rather than just rewaxingservice.com. So people were buying into the story, buying into the brand. And then I very early jumped into manufacturing. And that was a mistake, really. I did some sweatshirts and T-shirts made in Manchester without really knowing anything about it. Stunning fabric, stunning, amazing things. And they all sold really well. Put them into retail. It was all really, I was learning on the job. And I learned very early that when you get stuff in, it's not normal to sell it straight away. And we did on those first few releases, because it all just disappeared. I'll get even more in next time. I'll get more in next time. So you do that, and then you realise you're sitting on stock. And then as I've grown older and speaking to brands and businesses, they're like, it doesn't always happen that way. You sit on this stuff for a while and you plan. But all that stuff, all those, I don't want to say mistakes, but all of that learning it's really helped fuel what we do today, really, kind of all those business decisions.
I'll call a lot of businesses, especially a lot of international businesses, the government are trying to reshore them from, the Far East, the manufacturing, back into the UK. And you're kind of in this whole heritage reshoring push that's happening at the moment. And one of the big titans of that is Patrick Grant, with whom I had on the podcast. And you featured in his book as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a big plus. So I'm a big fan of Patrick Grant and everything he stands for. And I listen to the podcast, and I do. A lot of these people in the public eye, it's quite easy to think, yeah, is this all for show? But from what I've seen, heard, read, and met Patrick, he truly believes in that mission, and it's inspiring. It's genuinely inspiring. So it kind of extrapolates to so many industries, from metal work to so many different crafts. But I don't want to say I know my lane, but the fashion's a horrible world. But clothing, fashion industry that I work in, it's been a race to the bottom for so long. And even with some of the brands that you might not think are doing that, they are doing that. There's so much wool being pulled over the eyes, and the model that Community Clothing are doing with Patrick is amazing. Because, so let me give you an idea. I shared this on Instagram recently. I got an email with I'm not going to mention the brand names. I got an email from a brand saying extra 15% off our sale. So, bloody hell, that must be a lot. So the email last week was 50% off. So I've gone into the website. I've seen a wax, added it to the basket, and it's added the extra 15%. So the full price was £550, and now it'd come down to 23375. And I was just like, they're still making a profit on that, And I know the quality of the jacket. I know the jacket very well, and it's not worth. Well, it's not. It's you're paying for a brand over the quality, and I think there's a balance between the two. Brands need to make money. I get that, but for a long time now, brands have been making money with poor quality, and the customer's been losing out quite a lot. And I think, again, that's helped fuel what we do, because customers are seeing that and they're going, actually, no, my old thing is better than that new thing that they're trying to sell me. But we can all do better with the ethics around the fashion industry, It doesn't all have to be about killing each other to make loads of money. You can still make, good money and good quality, but we lost that along the way. And we started pumping out just poor quality after poor quality. So it's a big thing in my house, because my other half, her habits were around more fast fashion, your Zara's, your whatever, because it's quick. And women's fashion is, they've got it far more difficult than men, because they do get told often, you're not good enough. And certainly with clothes, you must buy the next nicer piece of clothing. So her choices are now becoming more ethical around that, and seeing, for example, she bought a shirt last week that was £100 for a shirt, which is a lot of money for her and, for anybody. And she saw that as an investment. And by investing in that, she read up on the company who had a beautiful story. They opened their door to all of their ethics and their story, and everything was out there. And she's now invested in that shirt, and she'll look after it. She'll wear it more. And that's because she spent more money on it, rather than a £5 whatever. I went to a talk with Patrick not that long since, and he spoke around a Primark garment, and it had on the label, "Please rewear." We're having to tell people to rewear clothing. What world are we living in where we're having to tell people to rewear clothing? That's frightening.
What I liked about Patrick and what he was doing, there was like an altruistic element to it, that he reopened the factory, he's providing employment. And I think people at the pioneering this movement also have that altruistic element, because you also do a lot of work, or a bit of work, putting back into the community of Wakefield, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's something we're about to launch, actually. We're doing but again, when I've said about not making our own wax jackets, I would love to create a wax jacket. I know what's good, what's bad. It's something I've spoken to many brands about, as well as on a kind of consultation basis. For example, stop making yellow wax jackets, please, because they never stay clean. Let's just stop that, right? But again, rather than create my own, there are a lot of old wax jackets out there. So I've been stockpiling them, buying them in, reproofing them, fixing them up, and to put them back into circulation. So one, it stops them from going to landfill. And the old stuff is genuinely fantastic. And not only that, when they've got the patches on and the stitches, it's showing the scars of wear. You know, we'd say wear your scars with pride. Every patch tells a story. It's a chapter of that jacket's story. So we're doing that, putting them back in. That's going to be our end of summer, August, September time. But I wanted to look at how we can do a little bit better with that. Because of the cost of living crisis and, well, there's many factors to this, of which I don't want to get political about. There are a lot of people on our doorstep, and I live in quite an affluent area. It's lovely where I live. It's very different to where I grew up, which is an amazing area as well. But it's so strange how you can cross a road and the area changes completely, where you have people walking around, some of my customers, and it's all their choice. If you've got one Belstaff jacket, you tend to have 3. So the average price for a Belstaff jacket is £500, and that's a lot of money. And there's people who literally have nothing. There's a community foundation in Wakefield who help give people clothes who've got nothing. They turn up and I've got a job interview and I've got nothing, or I've just got nothing to wear. And I find that both heartbreaking, disgusting in this day and age when we go back to the Primark label that says, please rewear. You know, it's wrong. So what I'm trying to do, or what we're going to do, is donate £10 of every profit from that jacket to the foundation, so that we can try and do our little bit. We're not going to make them millionaires. We're not going to clothe the whole of Wakefield, but we can at least try and do our little bit. Same with samples that we get for our clothing. I'll be giving them to the foundation to give to people. But I think, again, it's going back to the altruism and, you know, about Patrick Grant's a similar type of thinking. If we can all do that little thing, like to us, sticking £10 on a jacket, like if you buy a new Barbour jacket, £300, we're probably going to sell them around the £100 bracket. £10 of that to somebody who really needs it. You know, everybody wins. The customer gets a good product. We do well as a business because then we can put it back in and continue to grow. And then we give it to somebody who's got nothing, you know, who can help somebody. Now, if we can all do that, you know, I don't want to sound too right on lefty socialist and all that kind of thing, but it's if we can all kind of lift everybody and the whole of society does well, you know.
You said that you wouldn't want to create a new wax jacket because the current ones are so good. If you were to create a new wax jacket, if I gave you £10 million R&D fund, what would the process be?
The process, so, well, I won't bore you with the details of the actual process, which is one of the things. So one of the main reasons I've not made a jacket, because we've got, you know, we're well plugged into manufacturers and lots of people. I'd be more interested in doing collabs with people, which we've done before, adding our expertise to their quality. Again, it's such a tough one. As a small business, a small indie business, which we're proud to be, you know, we've had many knocks on the door from investors who want to take us down many avenues, which at times has gone, oh, that's interesting, but then you start talking about dog leads and dog collars. And you think, yeah, maybe not. Thank you, but maybe not. We'd just be putting a lot of money in to try and spend 5 years to make that money back. And, you know, that's kind of no fun in that. We've reached the ceiling of our bracket. To go to the basement of the next bracket, we need to start making big changes. And we're doing all right just now. So what would that jacket look like? I think the classic Beaufort's it's a timeless style. It's a style that works with literally anything from a suit to a hoodie and joggers, you know, which I've seen worn and you're like, yeah, if you can carry that and that's good. Not for me. I'm way too old for joggers these days. For me, I don't see what you can improve on that, if I'm being absolutely honest. There's certain things you can add, like Private White do a great job with their wax walker, with the twin track. So they've made the 2 zips that you can remove. They've done it really well, making the subtle differences that make it enough. But their finishing touches with the brass and the fabrics that they use are. I've been in the factory at Private White, and you walk around and you're like, wow, this is, they do things right. So again, I don't see what there is for us in that market right now.
So how many jackets then are you looking to stock when you've reproofed them and then look to sell them on? Like, are you constantly on eBay and Vinted? And
It's a
marketplace.
sport for me. It's an absolute sport. It's It's something I did think about moving into different worlds with it as well. So I do genuinely love it. I am there on Vinted looking at bargains, and you buy them. And again, am I fooling people? Maybe not. A lot of people don't know that you can reproof them for a start. We've spoken about that. And the fixing element of if something's wrong with it and they want to sell it, I pick up some unbelievable pieces. But then I also do, for my own personal wardrobe, I can't remember the last time I bought anything new. It's almost like a refusal to do it. I bought some Grenson boots last week, like a desert chucker boot, which is in a dark brown, great all-rounder, perfect addition to any wardrobe. And my wardrobe is a capsule wardrobe. Everything works together. I'm almost OCD with it. And it's always one in, one out. So I found some Grenson boots that somebody had listed on Vinted as Grenon boots. And they were up at £8.95. And I'm thinking, this is strange. Bought them, and they arrived, and they are, I've looked them up, they're currently retail at £325, and there was nothing wrong with them whatsoever. And it's, like I say, it's a sport. And I'll probably sell those in a month or two. You know, when it comes to winter and I get my other boots out, I think I'll sell them on. And another thing I did yesterday, day before, I love the old Red Wing style. It's not necessarily a style I wear. I used to, like today, I'm in my almost scruffs, which would be classed as workwear for when you're at the waxing table. But I picked up some Red Wings for £30. They needed resoling, so I've got a friend who resoles them. There's a guy local to me who resoles them for £25 with the vibrant soles. So you've got a pair of £300 boots there for £50 in, and obviously the worn in as well. So with a good clean and polish. Like I say, it's almost a sport. I genuinely love doing that kind of stuff. And then what I'll do, I might keep them, wear them for a bit, or stick them back on Vinted at £100 or something like that.
It's such a sport, though, isn't it?
It's enjoyable. It's I don't gamble. I don't necessarily drink, although I've got into red wine recently. As a coffee snob, as with a cycling man, you'll know you have to like coffee, and then coffee leads into red wine. But yeah, it's I do take great joy. It's almost a little bit, whatever. You've got the business that does what it does, and now you're saying you like to do. I do genuinely like taking old things, fixing them up, and then seeing the end product. It is a genuine sport and hobby for me as well as a business.
So we've got that looking forward. What else is in store for Mallin Sons?
Rather than going and manufacture everything everywhere, being an independent, we can choose what we do, how and when we do it. So one of the things why I've chosen not to manufacture is I do a lot of like the printed tees we do. I don't wear printed tees. I don't. And I had to struggle with that for a long time about, how do I create something I don't wear? And my customers will say, but when we do a printed tee, people love it. And they buy them. And they want to wear the brand on there, and they want to wear, the kind of tapping into that. I call it like a Vans tee, the kind of a younger tee, which again works with a wax jacket. And I'm going to drop a massive name, so watch your toes as I do this. I had this conversation with David Gandy about this, who I've spoken to for the last few years, actually. Really good guy. And he's now got Gandy Wellwear, which is a lovely brand, really nice brand. And we were speaking, I went down to the, I'm not even going to pronounce it, because you'll have a better pronunciation of, I'm assuming a French word than me, but it was the event down in Savile Row back in May with the classic cars. And I was chatting to David around this conundrum I've got. Customers are saying to me, we want a T-shirt with a brand on it. Give us it, blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to do it. So we had a good chat about various things, manufacturing, and the kind of that thing I spoke about, hitting a ceiling of your category and then the basement of the next. And the numbers involved financially, honestly, are frightening when you go into the next thing. And he says, his words, give the people what they want, as long as you're doing it from the right ethics of your business and your brand, give them what they want. Again, spoke to a friend who's a musician. He's a professional musician. That's his job. And asked him the same thing about writing music. What is it? What do you do? And it's the same thing. Give people what they want. So I do that. But rather than stockpiling stuff, so I'm going to go. I don't know if I dare go on record and say this and say I'm never going to do a sale. I'm never going to put anything into sale because that's not fair to the customer. I'll price things fairly at what I think is the right price in comparison to everybody else, in line with us making a profit and with you getting a good product. I'll do that. But I'll also make things to order. It might take a little bit longer. So for a t-shirt, 10 days. But you know what? If you really want it, that's worth it because then you're going to invest in it and look after it. I can't stand the idea of stockpiling stuff and then being sat at the end of the season, which I can tell you happens more often than people realise. And then that's why you get an email with an extra 15% off 50%. Well, why are people not buying it? You know, what about the chap who bought it a month ago for $5.50 if they ever bought it? It's bollocks, basically. So, for us, the printed tees are going to continue. The kind of lounge wear, if you like, that will be there. But we've linked up with a local knitting group, which we can almost see the library where they're based. They make all of our hats by hand, and I love that. I'm going to go and do a profile on them, snap them, tell their stories, because they go and meet a knit and natter group who now make hats for us, and they ship out all over the world. So we're doing it, I think we're doing it the right way. Another thing we're just in discussions, pushing over the line, is linking up with a local tailor. So they've been going since the 20s, and they are the only tailor doing what they do, or doing what tailors do outside of London. They make everything in the UK. Their factory is based in our hometown, and I've been speaking to them for the last few weeks. I know nothing about tailoring. A little bit, but nothing enough to wear a tie and be seen and be judged, So it's, when I went to Savile Row, I was like, I'm not wearing any sort of tailoring here. Nothing whatsoever. Let's go soft with that. But they're doing amazing thing. And I mean, truly amazing thing. You can see the fabrics, the quality, the people, the machines. I walk around that factory and the machines are absolutely stunning. We're currently in discussion about doing almost an everyday range. So almost a personal peeve of mine is, and this sounds a little bit judgmental, is people's standards in dress could be better. And, I know you had Luke Hodges on recently, who I'm a fan of. And it's little tweaks that make people feel better and look better in clothing. For example, wear your jeans on your waist, something like that. This kind of thing. So on my own personal Instagram, I've started pushing that agenda a little bit more, telling people the stories of buying the Grensons for £8 and buying the Red Wing, and also wearing trousers at the right height, or wearing things that suit your body, things that complement your shape and all this kind of thing. And it's really interesting, the amount of feedback I get. It's not from the guys who are always going to be there, the usual scene. It's from people who are rugby lads, gym goers, just people who are like, oh, I never even considered this. Can you give me some advice? And I think that's a big old crowd. They're the people who would normally just go, oh, what's the brand that's in front of me in John Lewis? I must buy that. So we're looking to, with the tailor, possibly do something that's an everyday trouser or an everyday jacket that's, that kind of smartens up casual wear a little bit, and introduces that quality to an audience that might not have seen it before or might not understand it a little bit better. So there's something going to happen there soon. We're just formulating what that looks like. It's knocking on doors. It's again, I always find, and I advocate this for anybody, I don't know what the end goal is. I don't know where I want to be or where I want to go. I am just enjoying the process. I came into this industry from the side door, and you don't know the rules. Much in cycling, the etiquette that you learn fast. Because when you mess around with these seasoned, not even pros, but seasoned people who've been riding for 30 years, they will give you the telling off of your life if you do something wrong. If you sit on the wrong wheel and all this kind of thing. You learn fast, but you also learn to do things in your own way. And I do think that bringing it back to who you are, rooted in, your own morals and your own ethics, about being good, being nice to people, just working hard, that carries so much favour when you're knocking on doors and you're meeting people. Again, the Patrick Grant book thing, that came from guessing his email address. And then it was like,
no,
didn't know you guys were doing this. Yes, we are. Yeah, and then we've gone on to meet, and I'm meeting with Community Clothing next week. it's building these relationships. And I'm a genuine believer in going into a room. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Virtual room, a physical room, whatever. Go in there and you might meet somebody that opens a door to another room. And it's fun. It's fun. I've got kids, and if I can show them that I was willing to go and stand on Savile Row with the world's best looking man and feel like a fool, then anybody can do it, So that's all I do then, even better.
What a note to end on. Ryan, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time, and I really look forward to seeing what's next in store for you. I'll link everything in the show notes for people to go and check out.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joe.